So we just talked about one kind of brain change. I want to talk about a little bit of a different kind. Not the brain change of high-performance athletes, but changing the behavior of everyday people. And I'm going to explain it using this highly complicated model that looks like this. What is this? These are promoting pressures, reasons to do something. These are inhibiting pressures, reasons not to do something. And to demonstrate, let me talk about M&Ms. Okay? Not Smarties, I'm a Yank, so I don't get down with your pastel candy. Right? Let me talk to you about M&Ms. Why do we eat M&Ms? Sorry, there are no rhetorical questions in my talks. Why do we eat M&Ms? Because they taste good, right? They taste good. Chocolate tastes good. That's a strong promoting pressure, and M&Ms knows this. That's why there's over 30 flavors. They're like running out of bag colors because they keep coming up with something new, right? They know taste is an important part of why we eat M&Ms. Why else do we eat M&Ms? They're pretty. That's a great one. And I'm going to come back to fun in a second. They're pretty. We are actually aesthetically attracted to M&Ms. I know being a psychologist is basically just about screwing with people all the time. So if I give you a bowl of M&Ms that's just one color, you actually consume fewer M&Ms than if I gave you the entire color mix. We have this primal urge towards those nice colors. It's why when I eat Smarties, I'm like, what's wrong with these colors? These are weird, man. I don't know what's going on. As a matter of fact, we used to have two colors of brown in M&Ms. We had like a lovely chocolate brown, and then we had kind of a weird, like, poop brown color. And they wisely got rid of that color, and they ran a national marketing campaign to figure out what the next color would be. I think more people actually voted for M&M colors than sometimes vote in like state and local elections, right? This is an incredibly important topic. There's a lovely clip of a nightly news anchor sort of, the Iraq War, and then the new color, it's blue, right? It's a national headline-making news. Why else do we eat M&Ms? You talked about fun. Fun is an incredibly important aspect of M&Ms, right? Candy, it's evocative, it's about our childhood, there's a sense of nostalgia, right? They have these appropriate moments in the world, and I'm going to come back to that later again. There's another one that many people often leave out because it seems like a reason not to eat M&Ms, and that's calories. Now look, I've got an 11-month-old, this is getting bigger every day, right? Like calories seems like a bad reason to eat M&Ms, but it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon right now, right? We had a tea break for a reason, right? Your body, glycemic index goes down, you're ready for some more glucose, and you start to munch on those M&Ms. Now, how many people woke up this morning and immediately started eating M&Ms? But why not? You just told me that they're delicious, and they're beautiful, and they're fun, and they have calories, which we need first thing in the morning. While there's these inhibiting pressures, why aren't people eating M&Ms first thing in the morning? Calories is one. Time of day is one. They're not a breakfast food. M&Ms have an appropriateness, right? They're fun, and that can be a promoting pressure, but they're not for all times. If you really want to think about this, think about Valentine's Day, right? I don't romance my wife by being like, beautiful candles, filet mignon, a little red wine, and for dessert, M&Ms. That's not the narrative, right? That's a Lindt moment. That's a dark chocolate moment. That's a different kind of a moment. So one of the strong inhibiting pressures can be this sense of appropriateness. When brand works, when is an okay time to do this thing? One of the reasons you don't eat M&Ms first thing in the morning, they're probably not on your bedside table. Availability is a key inhibiting pressure. It's a key component to why we don't eat them. And the last one that sometimes people forget is cost. M&Ms aren't free. Now, for most of the people in the room, the cost of M&Ms is probably somewhat trivial. But think about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We're talking about the story of a boy who celebrates because he gets a chocolate bar once a year. And unfortunately, this is the reality for many people in the world today. Cost is a powerful inhibiting pressure. Now, why am I yammering on to you about promoting pressures and inhibiting pressures? It's because I think that everybody in this room today is concerned with behavior change. When we talk about disruption, when we talk about improving the world that we live in, behavior change is really what we're all trying to do. And so I want to show you that by thinking about promoting and inhibiting pressures, you can change people's behavior. Now, as some of you may have already discovered, there are M&Ms underneath most of your chairs, right? I can control your behavior right now. I can make you eat M&Ms. Just by making them more available. They're not any more delicious or beautiful. I haven't changed the colors or the flavors. All I've done is make them available to you. And you are free to start eating them at any time, by the way, since it is mid-afternoon. We all need a little caloric piece. I don't mind. But you can get to this place where you can change behavior. Take a second, get your M&Ms. I'll wait. All right, I have limited time. We're getting back to it. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I bought a giant box from the US, and believe me, the security people were very concerned. They're like, what's going on with these like 600 packets of M&Ms right now? Are they dipped in acid? Is this some new drug smuggling we've never seen? Nobody does this. All right, so the reason I put M&Ms underneath your chairs is I want to show you how trivial changing behavior really is when we start to think constructively about pressures. I guarantee you there's a room at Mars right now where people are dreaming up the next flavor of M&Ms, and they're going to spend millions of dollars doing it. They're going to launch, it's going to take marketing. They're going to have to test them on people. They have to come up with formulation people like. They have to make sure they don't kill people. They got to come up with a new bag color, which is really hard at this point, right? They're spending millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to launch this next flavor of M&M. What if they took that same money, or a fraction of that money, and just said, I am going to make M&Ms available everywhere all the time? We need to start getting radically reframing the way that we think about behavior change in the world, and the way that those of us in this room designs products and services and programs that change those behaviors. I want to talk a little bit about a topic that's really near and dear to my heart, gender equity. I love Cheryl, she's great, and I do think that women need to lean in, and it is important, but do we seriously think that the problem of why we still have a gender wage gap is because women don't want more money? Right? It's not a promoting pressure problem. Women in this room, is there anybody in here, clap for me if you don't want more money, if you wouldn't like to be paid equally to your male counterparts? Resounding silence, right? Except for the sound of M&Ms. It's not a promoting pressure problem, it's an inhibiting pressure problem. Let me tell you about a very simple tweak we did. A couple years ago, I built a free tool called Get Raised. You come in, you tell me what you do, where you work, how much you make, I'll tell you if you're underpaid. Answer a few more questions, I'll generate a letter that you can give to your boss asking for a raise. It's a free tool. 70% of the women that hand in this letter get a raise. The average raise is $7,000. We've helped women earn $2.3 billion in raises just by You're clapping for the wrong thing. That clap should really be for all of the women who continue to put up with the men in this room every day. That women haven't revolted over the bullshit that you all have to go through is amazing to me. $2.3 billion just from removing those inhibiting pressures. And we can do this in domain after domain after domain. When I first came to Microsoft, they noticed, hey, kids in schools aren't searching nearly as much as we would think they are. Like, what's going on? And the marketing department had a big campaign they had planned around creativity. The problem must clearly be that kids aren't curious enough. So we're just going to find a way to make them more curious, and then that'll drive up search behavior in schools. So I said, wait a second. Let's just go into a classroom. And anybody in here that's ever been in a classroom will tell you, kids have all the curiosity they need, right? We do not need to teach kids to be curious. They already have that. What we need to do is get out of their way. When you look in a classroom, the reason kids aren't searching is because of three very simple things. Teachers are concerned about adult content, they're concerned about privacy, and they're concerned about ads. So what did we do? We made an ad-free, safe, private version of Bing. Just by removing those three inhibiting pressures, you see 40% increases in the number of searches that people do at school and 15% increases at home. Because we got radically different about how we thought about the problem, because we mapped out the pressures. So many examples of this have come up today. It was interesting, the Virgin Sport folks came up, they talked about why we don't participate in physical activity, right? And they listed all these barriers, and they said, hey, we're going to fix it with fun. Now, fun is a strong promoting pressure, and that has a good chance of working. But let's talk about the inhibiting pressures. My favorite health company is a company called Peloton. What do? They take the flywheel experience, and they put it in your home. It's a big bike with a big screen that you can, in the privacy of your own home, take a flywheel class at any time. They have live classes and on-demand classes. That simple tweak is a difference between me going to the gym and not going to the gym. I have an 11-month-old, right? That I have an hour to get suited up and go off to somewhere and deal with everybody else waiting in line and checking in, all these other things. That's not going to happen. But if I can take a 15-minute class while he's sleeping at home, that works. Just removing that inhibiting pressure. You don't have to make me want it. I already want it. Most of the kinds of behavior change that we are interested in this room, that we've talked about today, whether it's climate change, political change, Most of the time, we want to do the right thing. The problem is the inhibiting pressures in our way. We can flip it as well. There are behaviors we want to extinguish in the world. One of the greatest public health victories is smoking. You go from a time in the mid-40s and 50s where almost every adult American smokes to a time now when very, very few do. How did we go about beating smoking? Well, the first thing they did was a natural thing. It's a thing all of us do when we think about we want something to happen less. We punish, right? We said, all right, we're going to make these things incredibly expensive. If you go to New York and buy a pack of cigarettes, ciggies, you Brits, right? If I go to New York and I buy a pack of ciggies, right, the taxes are almost as high as the cost of the cigarettes themselves. Then we put really big warnings on them and said, you're going to die if you smoke these. You know that, right? Strong inhibiting pressure, health and cost. But it wasn't enough. What really moved the needle on smoking? Banning advertising. It's one of the few products that we do not allow people to advertise in magazines, on TV, in movies. A bunch of adult Americans who got elected to public office, serious people, got around and made a law about cartoon characters. They said, you're not allowed to use cartoon characters to advertise cigarettes to children, because we know that works. And when you remove those in promoting pressures, those reasons to do it in the first place, you get serious behavior change. So, take a breath. I know it's the end of a long day. I want to send you away with a challenge. I want you to go to work tomorrow and think about the behavior change you want to see in the world. Write it out. Get on a whiteboard. Put up a promoting pressure arrow and an inhibiting pressure arrow, and get serious about thinking about the pressures that are at play in the world. Because you can design with them in mind. We talked a lot today about democratizing various things. You just talked about democratizing access to performance-enhancing exercises. I think that's great. What I want to try and do is democratize behavior change. Right now, behavior change sits at this nexus, right, where the people in power have the biggest budgets, and therefore they win. What I want to tell you is that behavior change, this is our guerrilla warfare. If we can empower each and every person in our organizations, in our businesses, in our nonprofits, in our lives, to hack on behavior change with us, to learn the basics of promoting and inhibiting pressure and social psychology, we can actually produce the large-scale behavior change that we wanted in the world. Remember, $2.3 billion in wage raises just from making it a little easier for people to ask and to ask in the right way. I want to address something that was said earlier today about people being born disruptors. So, if people are born disruptors, then behavior change doesn't matter. We're just born the way we are. But if that's true, and if we say, well, look at these disruptive, CEOs of companies, well, it turns out most of those CEOs are white males. So if you're telling me people are born to be disruptors, what you're telling me is that somehow white males come into this world ready to run things. And I don't believe that, and I don't think you believe that. We have to, collectively, recognize that the way things are has to do with systemic pressure, and that we can affect those systemic pressures. We need to turn up the inhibiting pressure on racism and sexism and nationalism. We need to remove barriers to better behavior. We need to make it easy to reduce, reuse, and recycle. We need to make it easy to treat people equitably. We need to make it easy for women to ask for raises, to young people to ask for opportunities, and for everyone in this room to make their world better. So I want you to go home and write an up arrow and a down arrow and think about the behaviors you want to change. And don't forget to enjoy the M&Ms. Thank you.